Welcome to the show, everybody. Alex is somebody who brings genius to wherever he goes. He really is a genius. He's got so much insight in his industry and just life. So welcome, Alex.
Thank you very much. So I'm Alex Race. I live nearby in Reading with my wife Debbie. I have three children nearby, and I have a son that lives out in the Middle East. And I come from the profession of user experience. So for those people that don't know what user experience is, it's a little bit of a bridge between technology and psychology. Designing products that are made for humans to use in the quickest, easiest and simplest ways. So that's how I'd sum up probably about 25 years of a career, although it goes into many levels deeper than that.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. What a brilliant introduction to what you do. With regards to what you do and your kind of career path and everything, what kind of moments would you say shaped your career?
So I think I've got three distinctive moments of my career, and I think they serve very specific roles in that career. When I was a kid, I struggled with school massively. The education system wasn't for me, or I wasn't with the education system. We never really got to the bottom of it. And so I didn't get to a point where I felt comfortable with progressing as I should have done, right? So the first moment in my career was when I had my first son. I had my son very young. I was 20 years old at the time. And that was the real point in time where I was like, I have to swim now, otherwise I'm going to sink. Failure is not an option, because if I fail now, then I am also failing the son that I had at a very young age. So that was my first pivotal moment in time where I was like, I may not have done well academically up to this point, but now I'm gonna go for it. The second point in my career was when I was given a chance. I was given a chance by a college tutor who shouldn't have given me a chance, but she took a risk with me, and she said, I'm going to give you a place on my course. You really shouldn't have a place because you academically haven't performed great, but I'm going to give you 6 months. If you can prove to me in 6 months, then I will keep you on the course. And that then kick-started everything that followed. And then the third moment in my career was when I got my first job with a company called Nokia, who older people will remember, younger people less so. It was the Apple of its day. And I was given my first ever job at Nokia by two people I'll be forever grateful to, a guy called Dave Mason and a lady called Isabel Plant. And I think although they probably knew they were giving me a job, I don't think they'll ever realise the opportunity they gave me, because it was effectively the start of what I'd like to think is a successful career.
Dave and Isabel, thank you.
Thank you, Dave and Isabel.
Yeah, thank you so much. Alex, seriously, thank you so much for coming along to do this show. I know that you have just got so much gift. You are gifted. And I'm listening to you, and while I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, what is this thing about academics and academia? I mean, the world has changed hugely. I remember when I was working up in London, my colleague was saying to me, we homeschool for our children. And I, more recently was thinking, I wish I'd done that. I wish I could have done that. What is this thing about, because we're living in times now where we can do so many different things. We've got so many opportunities with the tools, technologies. So what is academics?
Yeah, I think I don't want to downplay academia because it works for a huge number of people, and the education system works for a huge number of people, and there are many people across the world that would wish that we had the academic system in this, the education system in their country that we have in ours. However, I think it comes to relevancy. How do we teach relevancy of the subjects to the lives of the young people that we're teaching it to? And I don't think we've got that right. So, for example, I began learning maths when I started to buy and sell shares for myself, right? That's when I began to understand maths. It wasn't at school. It wasn't from my maths teacher. I've recently, since the pandemic, been learning a foreign language. But it was because I had a love of the culture of the country that I'm studying, whereas the default at school was French. It didn't have relevancy. It didn't feel the passion for it. So, I think we're a little bit in danger of the education system being a bit of a factory system, one fits all approach, and I think, people can get around it by having money, but those that don't have money have fewer options to deal with that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. Can I ask you what language you learned?
Italian.
Wonderful. A previous guest was talking to me about how beautiful the country is. I'm yet to go and travel there. Thank you for that. So you've kind of introduced people to what you do. Why is that sort of important for you, would you say, the work you do? Because the work you do, I definitely feel it's important.
Yeah, I think the thing about design and product design is that people don't think about product design if it's good, because they just simply do not notice it. They just use it because it works so well, right? The thing about bad design is that people notice it and it actually has a detrimental effect on their life. And, there's multiple examples of that. I was in Dubai with my son the other day, and he'd taken delivery of a new car, and he was really struggling with the amount of context switching and the number of button presses he needed on his new car whilst driving down a motorway, maybe slightly too fast, but, because everything was now being handled through a huge, great screen in his car. And he said, I'm not sure this level of context switching and buttons and screens is particularly safe within a driving environment. And he's an airline pilot, right? Yeah. So, I think what we do is hugely important for that purpose, in that, if we deliver great experiences for our customers, it becomes a differentiator that people aren't really conscious about when they start using it, because it just works.
I mean, the industry, from a product point of view, is changing hugely because of the, introduction of AI. I know when I first started to look at product and look at the kind of chatbots, it just made me so upset, because I knew it wasn't a real person. And, you just kind of have to persevere. It's asking you these questions. They're dumb questions. And you're sitting there trying your best not to get upset, even though, you've had a car accident, or, your property's been flooded, or whatever the kind of devastation you've had, and you're trying to get over something, and you're trying to also make things happen with this tedious process of this chatbot. So what's your kind of view of, now we've got AI available, how do you think that's going to impact, how can design be better with AI?
So I think every technology goes through a maturity curve, and AI is going to go through that. I mean, AI has been with us for a while anyway. And obviously some of these early experiences have been, difficult for a lot of us, myself included. So let's face it, they can only get better. I remember when a mobile phone involved carrying a briefcase-sized battery with you in order it wasn't very mobile, right?
Yeah.
And look where we are today, right? So I think that we are going to be getting to a point where we are going to get parity with the human experience. And I think having had also very poor customer service with a human on the other side, I think we can exceed that. I think what we need to be aware of is that any AI development has to be based on human need. It has to be based on what your customers are needing, what they're trying to achieve, and you need to kind of deliver that in a way that isn't more work for them. Where I think we have a risk is that AI is delivered from a technology first perspective and not a human perspective, which is a journey we've been on before when we went through the digital revolution of the early noughties and such. So I think my key message with AI would be, just because we can do a lot with technology, let's not take our eye off the human-centered design element of this, because I think both have a very strong role to play in the next revolution.
Yeah. I mean, you and I come from that kind of digital background and ways of working. What sort of things would help organisations, do you think, to kind of build better relationships within teams, to put kind of like that product emphasis first in terms of, the user needs, the customer needs? Like, what ways of working would you say you've noticed that have worked? Yeah. I
think there's a couple of sides to this story, and I think the first side is user-centered design thinking or human-centered design thinking has to be embedded at a senior level. It has to be endorsed and sponsored at a senior level. Okay. But the world is not perfect. And probably in over half of the organizations, you won't get that. So I think it is the role of design leaders to find ways to communicate that and to showcase that to the senior management in a way that it gets their attention and they begin endorsing it and they join the journey with you.
Yeah, brilliant. What sort of, so if we bring it down a level, so away from an organisation and bring it into just everyday existence in like people's lives and things, what ways work for you? Like what's, like for me, for example, with my family, of course, I've got this agile background. Yeah. I can't hide it. But as much as I've kind of like digested the values and the principles, there are nuggets that I think are so valuable to utilize. Are there things that you've utilized from those ways of working or that you've brought into your kind of personal life?
I think so. I think the understanding of an appreciation of the way different people think, and there's a marvelous saying, and I'm going to try and get it right, otherwise we'll have to re-edit this. But, I don't know what I've said until I know what you've heard. Yeah. And very often we think we're communicating one thing when actually someone else thinks we've communicated something else. And so I try and always remember that, when we're looking at designing digital products, we talk about this word personas, right? And what it effectively is a different type of person. So who is the person that I'm interacting with, whether it be my kids, whether it be my wife, whether it be my mum, and what lens are they seeing the world through? What are they coming at? And I don't always get it right, but, I try and do it.
Yeah. I feel like I love that persona aspect and element of design. It's so meaningful because when you are trying to specify, you can really hone in on that persona need. I've just tried to utilize some of these principles and values with my family and children. One of them is transparency.
Yes, 100%.
That whole kind of transparency piece, and then just being able to adapt if something's not quite right.
And I love that transparency piece, that piece about honesty. I think sometimes myself and my wife look at each other across the dinner table at some of the conversations, and like, as if to say, like, wow, this is quite, like bare for around a family dinner table. And it's like, but it's healthy. It's healthy that we're having this discussion together around all kinds of topics, and that we're kind of invited into that world to have that conversation with them.
Yeah. I mean, it's a privilege, isn't it, just to have that, because it's difficult. It's tough. I think it's a tough world right now. We've got multi-generational organizations. We've got geopolitical arguments in the world playing out. We've just got so much happening in the world all at once, quickly. How do we bring that kind of nurture, softness back into groups where it's desperately needed?
Well, I think again, as a saying, everyone's fighting a battle that no one knows anything about, right? And I think kindness is the key. I think we have to get back to, people will remember people who are successful, but they'll remember people who are kind more. And I think sometimes you look at the news and you read the news and you're kind of like, how come every story in the news is negative? Where are the good news stories? If you did here's a university survey, a project. If you took the number of negative stories versus the number of good news stories out there, what's the ratio? And it's not to say that there's any less good things going on in the world. It's just, what we get to find out about.
That's so true. That whole piece is so important, that kind of negative. If people kind of like became more, I don't know, the best way is like if people became more aware of, this piece is negative, and actually looked beyond that negative. I wonder what kind of, gems could be found, because it's always like, I don't know, like marketing or politicians or the campaigns, they don't have to be negative, but it's almost like they want to put fear.
Yes.
And it's like fear's going to drive them, fear. And I don't think that's the case.
No. And I think, fear might move people in one direction or another, but ultimately it's got to be hope that gets us through, right? Otherwise, anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's. I think it's really, for me, the ROI on value is more than just monetary. Although absolutely, somebody who's struggled financially because I've had to bring up my kids on my own and get to points in my life with struggle from a financial point of view, I think there's more to value than just pure dollar signs, pound signs. I think the currency has to be longevity, sustainability. It has to be about there's going to be generations after us. For me, that's so valuable. Hence why I've kind of ventured into podcasting and having wonderful guests like yourself, so we can learn from. And so I'm going to ask you, I'm going to break it up a bit. I'm going to ask you some, benign 60-second questions.
Sure.
So, right, Alex, what are you terrible at but secretly enjoy?
Oh my God, so many things. Playing the guitar, speaking Italian, being a dad. There's so many things.
Oh, bless you. So, Alex, what do you think? How would you define? So we're going to try and mix it up and bring a question from like your, work-life balance into it. Sure. So how do you define success for yourself?
So very, very simple. It's being at peace with myself. And it's incredibly hard to achieve for me, right?
Yeah.
I think, and I know it sounds corny, I don't want it to sound corny, but it is effectively, if I can be at peace with myself, then I've been successful at doing what I do.
Yeah.
And more often than not, I'm not. But when I find those moments, it's like, this is what it's for, because, I'm not striving, I'm not discontent, I'm not looking at the things that I could improve, I'm just being.
Yeah, lovely. Do you do any things are there any things that you kind of gravitate towards to kind of help you to get that kind of
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, playing the guitar badly gets me to that place. Speaking Italian badly, gets me to that place. But I love walking. I love going and walking with my, wife and in the Chilterns or down on the coast or whatever.
Lovely.
I get a massive sense of peace from nature. But we were saying today, actually, I'd like to try things like yoga and Pilates and meditation, things like that. So, that's a project. Watch this space.
Lovely. Yeah. I look forward to that. That's my bag.
Okay.
That's my bag. Yeah. I grew up on that kind of, environment. So, I'd be more than happy to share more and invite you into my world.
Oh, wonderful. Look forward to it.
Hopefully you'll love it. I'm going to ask you another personal kind of creative type of idea question. If you had a billboard for the future professionals, what would it be?
So it would say, pay it forward.
Lovely, lovely.
Because, and there's a little bit of a story behind that. I've had the benefit of having young people, work in teams that I've managed, and, they are the people that have made me the professional I am. And I've had the opportunity to give chances to people who on paper, like me, without necessarily all the boxes ticked, would come across as the top candidate. But I gave them chances. And there's one instance where a guy, he was so grateful and he kept saying thanks. And I said, look, you can stop saying thanks. I said, but just remember this when you're a manager. Pay it forward, give someone a chance who might not ordinarily get a chance. And that's all we need. And if everyone did that, then, we'd be in a better place, especially the generations that are following us.
Definitely. It's such sage advice. And, just, the thing about paying it forward, just that having that in your mindset of knowing that somebody else is going to benefit, this, so I really love that. Thank you so much for that. So, okay, so are you ready for another 60-second? I think we're doing
Yeah, that's good.
What's the one app on your phone you should delete but you never will?
Oh God. The one app. There's just so many. I mean, I could be here all day. Probably the Finnair flight app, because I'll probably never fly to Finland again. The design your own interior app, because it didn't work in the first place, so it won't work the second time round. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many. Most of them I don't use.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting insight, Alex, because it's almost like revealing of that need, that necessity now more than ever before for something to work. First.
Yeah, and I think it's that ability to do it if you can do it. Your ability to be able to do it if you wanted to do it. Right?
Yeah.
It's there. But you can download it any time. There must be some psychology in it. Maybe I'm a secret app hoarder. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I think we've all become. I mean, I'm investigating ADHD. I'm on an ADHD coach learning journey myself, and there's so much behind just that whole ADHD. Our attention is finite.
Yeah.
Our focus has been stolen, and we need things to work and operate the first time, really. I mean, we need that. We trust it. We trust our devices so much. You know, we are so close to them. Quite possibly, you know, sadly, we might be closer to them than our spouses, or because, you know, we plug it in without thinking. We don't ever sort of stop and plug it in terms of the relationship that we have, you know, with our closest ones, to just plug into them. Like, you know, there's this whole kind of barrier.
And I think that even the older generations now are relying on their apps for the community. I was on train yesterday. There was a much older lady who was on Facebook, and she was accessing her friends and her groups, and that really brought home to me that the older demographic who are now reliant on digital as their connection to the communities, even their immediate communities around them. So whereas, you know, 5-10 years ago, maybe it was less so, those people are now growing up as digital natives as well, just with different apps.
And they should work. I think the whole kind of piece around things not working is a barrier. It's a barrier for everybody. You know, there should be, I don't think there should be this kind of affordability. The things that really prevent a product from, you know, working, it should be tackled. It's,
And I think I learned a lesson, you know, a couple of weeks ago. My mum was contacting me, and she said, I'm having communications from a big hospital in London about important documentation, but like repeatedly I'm not able to access the app. I'm getting login issues. I'm doing this. And the first time I was like, for goodness sake, Mum, you know, like, I'll help you out, get access to it. Second time it happened. Third time, he said, I'm getting a text message telling me about an appointment, a letter that's been sent, a communication, and every time I'm being sent to a website that's not working for me, the level of stress around something so important actually made me feel really sorry for her, because I was seeing it from my own eyes that I don't know how to fix this, and you're getting these reminders with your phone to tell you to check the website that doesn't work. And I felt really sorry in that instance, you know. So when we get it wrong, it has big implications, especially with the older generation.
Definitely. I think even for all generations, I think, especially with this notion of what ADHD is, and this is called RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria.
I'm very aware of it. Yeah.
This is like such a big thing, because people who put on a facade, who are strong, who go forward, and, you know, like myself, I put on a facade, I go forward, I'm strong. We can break. We can so easily break. You know, I very quickly adopted an electric vehicle, thinking, yes, actually, it's the right thing to do. I deserve it, and I want to have something which is clean and good for the environment around me. Did a lot of research and got a reputable vehicle, only to find it's the software's terrible. You know, in the sense of it just sort of, if something's not quite right, it just gets really sensitive. So that's quite off-putting. But the bit that's really off-putting, the bit that's really broken me, I don't break easily.
Don't break.
I don't break easily. The thing that's really broken me is the operational processes behind these products, these very important products. You know, a car is very important. I was without my car for 41 days.
Wow.
And that's not good.
No.
That's not good. And these operations behind these important products need to get their act together. They need to be interested in all of their personas, not just the personas who are buying, you know, the executive class.
Yeah.
They should get with it in terms of people who are buying, you know, the possible affordable ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my kind of view in terms of products and design, is the chiefs and the directors and the people who invest to really think long and hard about, you know, what are they investing in, and will the product, will it be sustained well? Will the customer, you know, find that the journey continues? You know, so it's not just the product sales have gone up, it's about behind those scenes. So I'd love it if there are manufacturers out there who could maybe, you know, get Alex on board to help them.
Can find a few people.
It
Yes.
would be so wonderful. Alex, I have to bring this because it just keeps entering my mind. I read a story that you shared on LinkedIn about your son. So you know, more recently met your son, and then I looked into the story behind the story.
Yes.
And I was quite sort of it was quite emotional. You know, the whole story there. But your son is just amazing, isn't he?
Yeah. He's
Tell him.
Kieran, you're absolutely amazing. Wherever you're flying in the world now, you're great, and love you. Look, as I said, I had Kieran very young. You know, I lost my own father when I was 18, and that was a commercial airline accident. And you know, off the back of that, I spun out of life effectively. I kind of lost my compass completely. And as a result of that, I ended up becoming a young dad. I was far too young. I wasn't mature enough. I wasn't educated enough. And, you know, that was the point that I mentioned earlier, that I was at risk of kind of spiraling downwards. At one point, I'm like, okay, I've whittled my opportunities down to two things. One was taking up landscape gardening, which I did for spare money and I thoroughly enjoyed. And the other was joining the army to just get income. In the end, I went through college, went through university. I learned how to make websites. I learned how the principles of design, but I was living up in Aberdeen and the opportunities were small. And then it was only when me and my son's mum amicably parted that I thought, right, I have to make a geographic move, and I moved down to London to find work. And as a result of that, I used to fly up to Aberdeen every 2 weeks.
Wow.
And then Kieran used to fly down. And being a young kid on the plane, he used to be allowed to go in the cockpit. He used to be allowed to, you know, be treated a bit like royalty. You know, being a young kid flying on his you know, on his own, but looked after by the staff.
Yeah.
And at the age of 15, he came to me and said, "Dad, could I have some flying lessons?" And at that point, knowing, obviously having the history that I had with my dad, I said, yeah, you can do, but you've just got to be aware of some things, right? Yeah. You know, I know you're only 15, but if you're going up in one of these things, you know, you've got to earn that responsibility for making that decision, because I can't own that for you. I'm not going to say no. It's not for me to say no or to pass my trauma on to you. But, you know, and that's what he did. And there's, you know, other chapters to that story, but here we are today, and he's senior first officer with Emirates, and I'm very proud of him.
Gosh, it's just such a wonderful story, and your wisdom in how you share it, and how you were with your son at the time when he was asking you, and it just speaks volumes about you.
Thank you.
Absolute volumes about you. I'm going to ask you another 60 seconds.
Okay.
So what would be your hot beverage of choice when you're focused on a project?
Earl Grey tea.
Earl Grey tea.
Earl Grey tea. Yeah, not quite 60 seconds. That's 20 seconds. I do like a mint tea. I'm partial to a mint tea. But an Earl Grey tea just
beautiful.
hits the spot every time.
Yeah, I do like a Earl Grey as well. Yeah, definitely. And name one thing that you've bought, ridiculous thing, in the kind of like hobby of passion.
Oh my goodness! Again, there's quite a lot of things. So I bought a word.
Oh, wow.
And it was a word made out of graffiti. And the story is that in Rotterdam, there was a wall that people graffitied on for 30 years. And they were going to knock this wall down. And the guy said, "Can I take the graffiti off the wall?" And it was 30 years of layered graffiti. And so this guy walked away with massive chunks of layered paint made up of 30 years of graffiti.
Yeah.
And he made things with it. So when I was in the Netherlands last year, I bought a word, and it's the word dreft. I don't know what it means, but it is made of years and years and years of graffiti paint all built on top of each other. And I absolutely love it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I haven't framed it yet. But yeah, it's fairly useless, but there's just something I like about something that was art being turned into a new form of art.
Wonderful. It's so telling, Alex, about you. There's so much in what you're sharing with regards to humanity. It's kind of like, I'm just welling up myself.
I'm well up at everything. So there is this need, isn't there? This humanity piece we need. And I think on your LinkedIn it says Agentic. Yes.
UX. Can you share a little bit about that?
So, Agentic UX is, so you've got Agentic AI. So, no, let me go back. So, Agentic effectively means agent. It means, a task that is performed, right? We're living now in a world of AI, and a lot of people are familiar with generative AI, which is creating images, creating words or text. Agentic AI is effectively AI that will perform a certain task. Okay. Now, this goes back to what I said earlier on about AI, is that if we're going to think about how AI is going to perform tasks for us, we cannot do that from a technology first perspective. We have to start with the human, because it is the human for whom those tasks are going to be performed. So let us not start with the technology and say, okay, what can we do with the technology? Let's keep the humans in mind, the customers, the mums, the dads, the grands, the grandpas, and work out how we design AI around those people rather than going off on a tangent, just doing technology for technology's sake.
Alex, I could carry on just chatting with you for ages and ages, and hopefully we'll chat more as well. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. Thank you for giving me the time and giving people out there the time. Absolutely amazing.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You. And so that's a wrap, and I hope that you've enjoyed this session and you find insights into what Alex is sharing. Please like, subscribe and share, and I look forward to the next episode with you. Thank you.